Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Hello, everybody who is jumping on.
Hello, guys. Welcome. Feel free to pop your cameras on. This call is being recorded. Your face will not appear in the recording, neither will your voice. All right, we're just going to give everyone just a moment to come on in and join.
I would say kick off. Let's be prompt.
Just a second. It won't be long.
Maybe in the chat box, pop in a word to express how you're feeling right now and also where you're tuning in from. Hey Sarah, howdy guys, out and about, so I won't turn on the camera, but listening totally fine. If it's not appropriate to put your camera on, it's all good. Emma Baker, optimistic, yay. Tuning in from Brisbane, Sarah.
Nice. Okie dokie. So welcome everybody to the webinar, the masterclass that we've got prepared for you today. Let me change this to see all of us.
Half ahead.
Like that. Nope, we're going to go like that. And we're going to move that there like that. And then we're going to do some creative shimmying around like that. There we go. Love it. Okay. So welcome to today's masterclass live event. It's all about the connection to trauma and how trauma affects your body and your health. Today's one specifically is on that connection. So welcome. For those of you who we don't know, just a little bit about Philly and myself. Do you want to introduce?
Yeah, so I mean, look, if you're probably here live, you have been following us, but maybe not. Maybe it's like this is the first time that I've actually ever heard of you guys. So we're Chris and Philly Ballette, and we have a holistic health practice, Chris and Philly Functional Medicine. We're best known for ending body burnout in busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues. And by the word busy, generally it's showing up as patterns of overdoing, people-pleasing, perfectionism, which as we unfold the 3-day event over the next week, you'll find that a lot of these patterns actually have a trauma underbase connection to it. So yeah, that's us. We're based in Tassie. We operate virtually worldwide. Been featured in some really cool places like Forbes and Body and Soul, and won a few awards.
Yeah.
And also new authors of the book Ending Body Burnout.
Boom. Our intention today, as I move us to the other side of the screen, is to just reveal how trauma affects your health and to explore options. If you can, guys, if you missed this one, can you please put your screens on so we can see you? It makes us it makes it easier for us to to coach and to help you and to present for you. You won't appear in the recording, and we've just made it so you can't come off mute, so neither will your voice. Please use the chat, pass notes, write, type. This is how we communicate with you, so we'll be actively monitoring that today.
And this is the benefit of being on live as well. I know there's a bunch of people that have joined or registered that couldn't make it live. But when you are live, you can have real-time support, and also any questions that you have, any blocks. Like, we are totally here to serve you.
Bingo. Wondering, can you give yourself permission to really be here now, to be here in this moment, to be here in this room with us, wherever you are, however you are? Can you give yourself permission to be here? And I'd love to have an answer for that. In the chat, can you just write, yes, I'm here, showing up, I'm all in, all ears, or if that's not the case, can you say, someone said before, I'm driving. Awesome. I don't know how you sent that message. Pull over before you send that. Just let us know how you're being right now.
Awesome, Erin.
If you can show up.
Yes, I'm here. iPhone, 100%. Hello, iPhone, whoever you are.
Awesome. Love it. We'd love to know about you. Who are you? How do you know about us? What do you, if you're working with us at the moment? So we've got Marg, see you. Michelle, see you. Kerry, see you. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what you're
also why you're here, because this will help us to I mean, we always have things planned, but we often go off plan depending on the needs of the group. So pop in why you're here and or what you want to get out of today or the next 3 days. Yeah,
boom. Also, while you guys are tippity tap punching away in the chat box, can you hear us okay? Are we coming through loud and clear? Can you just go thumbs up? Okay, cool, awesome. Can you also let us know if that changes? Like, just in the chat, just say, dude, you're lagging, can't hear you. So just tell us if there's any problems.
Awesome. So Sarah, yay, just about to start working with you. Excited to start currently doing the lab testing, saliva tests. So good. See where those stress hormones are at. And we'll talk about that today.
Giddy up. Shall we jump into it?
Yeah. If you're tapping away in terms of what you want to get out of today, just keep going. We'll circle back.
We'll actively monitor the chat.
Oh, here we go. We got some.
Yeah. We'll
So, Emma, I'm keen to get healthy enough to get back to work and finally get to the bottom of my burnout. It's been a long road. Yes, it can be. We are very much not about giving Band-Aid approaches, which we also see in the natural therapies. So getting to that deepest root is going to solve it. Catherine, a year of no improvement with a functional medicine doctor, so I feel very disappointed. Hopefully today you're going to get a lot of new insights. I used to practice just standard functional medicine, which worked well for some people, but not everyone. And often the people who it did work for, symptoms came back at some point. Michelle, making the most of working with you both. Yay. Joe from Maitland. I don't know how to say that. Maitland. Looking forward to learning and understanding trauma. Awesome. Kerry, any help is good. All information is helpful. Awesome.
Pew, pew.
All right. Let's get into... Actually, before we share the slide, what is your understanding of trauma? I'd love to, just in the chat box, a sentence or two, when you hear the word trauma, what do you think of? What does it actually mean to you? A significant event that has had a lasting impact on your health. Yeah, awesome. Definitely. Damaged, or I'd like some elaboration there. What specifically? J, events that have a negative impact. Yep. The body's negative interpretation. Oh, hang on. Body's negative interpretation in response to something. Yep. Sarah, something that occurs which makes an impact, an event where the person felt they could not cope, didn't know how to process it, ongoing mental load that replays over. All of these are spot on. Trauma is when our body experiences something it can't fully process at the time, often a significant or ongoing events. You guys are all over this. Wow. Scalable, every trauma is different. We can't compare. Yes, I want to talk about that. Trauma is something that has happened directly or indirectly and often passed through generations. Okay. Haven't been able to undo the repercussions of trauma as yet. Yeah. So
I like that little word, yet.
Yet.
It's super empowering.
Yeah. Okay, so let's share some slides. We've also got events, big or small, that have shocked the body, mind, spirit in some way. Yep. So you might have heard of terms like macro, micro traumas, vicarious trauma, little t, big T. I just wanted to dig into this a little bit just so that in case someone is kind of new to trauma, you can understand that actually trauma happens to everybody. It's not the big, horrible events that we often think about first and foremost when we think about trauma. But it can generally be anything. And it was interesting, someone said scalable. Every trauma is different. We can't compare. And we can't compare how one person responds to something in comparison to another. So macro traumas are the things that we connect to generally trauma. So war, physical abuse, sexual assault, natural disasters definitely can impact the body. And I'm going to talk about how it does a little bit later. Micro traumas, on the other hand, are often more subtle stuff. And these are the things, this is why you might have, if you've been reading some of our emails or done our scorecard on trauma, I use the word hidden, because a lot of the times we do not even know that we actually have hidden trauma stuck inside the unconscious mind and the body, and that it's actually connected to not only how we're thinking and feeling, but how our body's responding. And also maybe why you might be stuck with the healing process. So some of these subtle traumas, and very welcome, like I've just got a few little ones. You're welcome to pop in the chat too if you're kind of thinking about other stuff. But it can be emotional abuse. So you might not ever be touched, but you might get manipulated a lot or in the past. Called stupid and dumb all the time. You might have grown up in a household where there was a lot of yelling and a lot of stress. Maybe you wouldn't consider it violence or domestic violence, but it was not a nice environment to grow up in. Gaslighting is huge, and I see that in the medical system a lot, where it's like, oh, your tests are fine. It must just be all in your head. And it's like, no. Shame and blame, years of shame and blame. So these are all the subtle things that can actually cause trauma in the body. And then there's vicarious traumas as well. So you might have witnessed something. You might have witnessed a horrible car accident, or you might have heard about traumatic events. So if you actually do feel like this is triggering anything, like I'd actually encourage you to jump off, and maybe it's not the best time to be talking about this. You might listen back to the recording when you're feeling a bit more safe. But if you do feel triggered at any point, just jump off. That's fine. And we'll reach out to you. Okay. So macro trauma can also be considered as big T trauma and also little t. And sometimes there's crossovers as well. So again, I've just got listed some other things. On the big T side of things, other things could be neglect, where maybe your basic needs weren't met growing up, and that's caused trauma that hasn't been able to be processed. Being exposed to violence, even bullying, especially chronic bullying, whether that's when you were younger at school or even in the workplace, or maybe with extended family members, serious accidents, life-threatening illness and major surgeries. Pretty big as well. And we've worked with clients too where actually they were going along pretty fine until they had a heart surgery, or they were in a major car accident, and from then on, major amounts of health anxiety. Other things for little t, chronic health issues. So if anyone's dealing with things like exhaustion, low energy, gut issues that are just there all the time, headaches, these things produce trauma as well. Did it start with trauma? Maybe, maybe not. But definitely over time, it can just add to the bucket load of trauma when your body isn't functioning. breakups, relationship breakups, getting cheated on, pressure to perform is a big one too, that a lot of our clients, so when I say we work with busy people, again, that's often showing up as like, I have to do all the things. My to-do list is never ending. I have to be a perfectionist and a people pleaser. Often that's because you actually grew up in an environment where there was pressure to perform, whether that was by caregivers or sometimes even just your own beliefs that you create about yourself. You start believing that I have to be more and do more to actually be accepted and loved. But over time, that gets stuck in the body and causes trauma. Ongoing stress, you might have caring responsibilities for disabled children or elderly parents, and humiliation is a big one as well. And I think about that when I think about how trauma often starts as a child. Not everyone has their camera on, but just pop your hand up if you were ever like completely embarrassed as a kid. I know there were several times where I was completely humiliated. I think we all are at some point. That can be traumatic. And as a little kid, you probably weren't able to process it and it stays in the body. I included this slide. I don't know if you want to zoom up. We use this in different ways, but I love it because down the bottom, you've got the more lower energetic emotions that we feel. And right down the bottom, you see guilt, shame, and also humiliation is on the bottom on the second line. And often humiliation is the more subtle events that actually occur as a child that then lock in trauma in the body, and also, and we'll talk more about beliefs in day 2 next session, but often it creates unconscious core beliefs about yourself as well, that I'm so humiliated, I'm so embarrassed, why did I do that, why didn't I get chosen, whatever it is, there must be something wrong with me. And those feelings, like those dysfunctional self-limiting beliefs that we have all created at some point, is also what I would consider trauma, because it's like this internal tiger chasing you over and over again. Okay, so just pop in the chat box. You don't have to give any details. Just write a yes, a Y, or an N. Do you feel like then, based on this explanation of trauma, have you experienced it at some point? Pretty sure we're going to get all Ys, and if there's any no's, I'm like, oh, I'd like to dig into that. Not on this call today. But essentially everyone has experienced trauma because it shows up in so many ways. And especially as a child, so before the age of 7 is where we're sense-making creatures. So when something happens to a child is very egocentric. So it will always ask 2 questions. What just happened and what does it mean about me? A child is always personalizing whatever happens to them or around them or for them and gives it a personal meaning. So if something distressing happens, then generally a child will make a distressing belief about themselves. And also as a kid, we have limited capacity. We have limited capacity to actually process these big feelings and emotions. So, look, there hasn't been a study worldwide, but I'm pretty sure that 99% of people are carrying around trauma from the past as a little child. You may have addressed it now, and that is fine if it's clear, but pretty much every human being has some sort of trauma still stuck in their body. The other thing around kids, you can use the chat box again and just write why or no. Did your parents teach you about emotions? Did you learn it at school? I'm like 40 this year and I'm so excited about being 40. But I know that like in my generation and generations before me, it wasn't anything that we were taught, because also our parents and our grandparents weren't taught it. So how the heck are we able to, as little children back in the past, able to understand the emotions that we experience and how to process them? And also, like, you might resonate with this. When you were a kid, did you often get told, stop crying, it's okay, be quiet, especially if you're in public, stop crying. And the parent is like, this is really embarrassing, stop crying. So it's almost like these emotions are getting repressed and a child just holds on to them. which is why human beings, adults, have a lot of dysfunction showing up in their life because we don't know it's there and we didn't know how to process it. Any questions so far? I forgot to preface this. Day 1 is very educational, information heavy. Day 2, we're going to actually take you through a really powerful coaching process. And day 3, we're going to take you through a really powerful practice session. So please feel free as we're talking, if there's any questions, just pop them in the chat box. So if you have your own insights that you want to share, totally do that. Okay. Jenna, I did have a mother who taught me a lot about emotions. Yeah, cool. And a stepdad who was very helpful in helping me learn how to process. So good. Yes. Okay. So how does trauma get stuck in the body? So a normal stress response. So on this model, these little triangles are kind of representing a distressing event. So something happens, it peaks. Do you have your little drawery thing?
A little gizmo.
When it peaks, what happens in your body is you produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and also adrenaline or noradrenaline, which is a brain chemical. And both of these hormones, chemicals, are what is produced when we get stressed. But we have this inbuilt capacity to be able to self-regulate. So it's like get stressed, process it, regulate, and then your hormones, brain chemicals settle down and you return back to calm. What happens when that goes haywire is that there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is responsible for your fight-flight response. So it's always scanning for danger. It's like, what's happening? And it's kind of how we were evolved, because back in the day, there were tigers and diseases and famines and, I don't know, other tribes that might have come and killed you. Like, it was very much survival mode when humans first evolved. And so this amygdala part of the brain is so important because it keeps us safe. But when you've been experiencing a lot of distressing events or a lot of subtle things chronically over time, the amygdala, like they've actually done studies, scans of the brain to show that a traumatized brain looks very different to a non-traumatized brain. And even a traumatized brain, after trauma has been cleared, now returns back to a normal functioning brain. And they can see that on scans, which is fascinating. So this amygdala is just like firing crazy when you get stuck in a chronic state of fight or flight. And so your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys and they're producing a bucket load of cortisol. And this is often, like, you can pop in the chat box too if you resonate with this now or in the past. Have you got to the point where it's like, ugh, I can't even cope with like daily stresses or daily to-dos anymore, or the things that I used to be able to cope with, they're really like irritating me, making me jumpy, making me kind of wired a lot. Yeah, super common, because we start getting to the point where we struggle to regulate and bring ourselves back to calm. Cortisols and adrenals are a big part of that. And also adrenaline. I couldn't really find a picture of adrenaline. But actually adrenaline is created in the adrenals as well, but it's considered a neurotransmitter. And so similar thing, your body can just be producing so much of it because you're in such a state of high fight-flight alertness that over time that adrenaline actually depletes, which actually becomes more dysfunctional. So your body has to try harder to stay on alert, and that's where the amygdala gets like really activated. Yeah, totally can feel my body being wired. That was me. Yes, I can't even get myself to work some days. Yeah, when it's like far out, I used to be able to go to work every day. What's going on? Something going on in the body. Okay. So at some point, the body gets stuck in a chronic state of fight or flight. So instead of you being able to come back down to self-regulate, you actually get stuck up here. And that's part of like your nervous system is getting stuck up there too. So you go into sympathetic mode where you're fighting, flighting, fleeing, freezing, rather than being able to rest and digest and come back to calm. Another thing in terms of like the connection between trauma and the body. So the body is producing all these stress chemicals. So from a physiological point of view, it's difficult to regulate yourself now that the body's involved. And also there's a thing called somatic memory, where there's a part of the brain that remembers past events in the body. And so you might have experienced this too. I remember my email inbox was a big trigger in the past. And it had to do with a time back when we had a different business, and there was actually like some conflict, and it was quite traumatic. And so from then on, for quite a while, for a few years, every time I opened my inbox or got a new email, my body would go into like this fight flight response, expecting the worst, when most of the time it was just like, you have a bill, or hi, can I get some more supplements, Philly? There was nothing, like, from a logical point of view, there was nothing to be afraid of, but my body remembered. Has anyone experienced that as well? I'm thinking about some other examples of clients. A beautiful woman, every time she drives across a bridge, her body goes into a state of panic, and it's connected back to a past event with her father.
So we got a comment here in the chat. So if something is even a perceived or imagined threat, does your body react the same as if it was a real threat?
Yes.
Yeah,
Such a good question. So here's the thing. I was actually going to go more into this into day 3, but I'll touch on it really briefly today. When you've experienced a distressing event in the past and you haven't processed it, so if you process it, it just gets stored in the part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is neutral memory. It's like, meh, when I think about that again, it doesn't cause my body or my emotions to have a reaction. But what actually happens when trauma hasn't been processed is it gets stuck in the unconscious, and the unconscious mind is also the body. And it ends up going round and round like a broken videotape loop, as if it's happening now in reality. So you could be completely safe on the beach with your children, and then all of a sudden you might hear, I don't know, like a car backfire or something. And immediately it takes you back to a time, like this would be for a war example, back to the time when you were back in war. I think that answered the question. Perceived or imagined threat as well. So this is where anxiety kicks in as well, where trauma then causes anxiety because you get stuck in this fight-flight response and your adrenals are going crazy and your brain can't regulate. And so then therefore you start thinking the worst case scenario about things that may happen that probably never will, and it still creates the same response in the body.
Got a question about somatic stretching actually helping to release trauma. I'm not actually sure on what somatic stretching is. Do you know?
Yeah, I do. It's not something that we do specifically, but yeah, the science around that, especially like, for example, sexual abuse. A lot of women will hold it in their hips and their pelvis. And so there are different types of stretches depending on what type of experiences you've had in the past where you actually can release that. And it's really powerful. The thing with the somatic stuff is it has to be consistent. So sometimes someone might do like a somatic exercise or workout. It's like, that didn't do anything. Well, it probably won't the first time. You have to be consistent with it. Same with things like massage. Like sometimes just having a massage is enough to start shifting things in the body. Okay, so common symptoms. These aren't all the symptoms that show up when there's a deeper trauma root cause beneath your health issues, but they're really common ones, and I often see these when there are adrenal issues and also neurotransmitter issues. So fatigue is a big one because it's exhausting. You're constantly trying to run away from that tiger. If you think about that broken videotape loop of past events, replaying over and over, even when you're asleep, that is exhausting. And a lot of people are trying to repress and suppress stuff as well. And I liken that to you've got a big balloon that you're trying to keep underwater, and that's kind of exhausting. But, that pressure is always there. Weight issues can show up too. Sometimes people go into a very fight-flighty mode and they start burning through weight, but often it shows up as like self-sabotage around eating habits, where you have the best intentions, but it's just like, why do I keep eating the chocolate or the chips? And often there are deepest events from the past that are stuck in the body where actually it wasn't safe to be attractive. And also from a physical point of view, the adrenals are part of your metabolism. So if your adrenals aren't functioning very well, then it's actually safer. The body thinks it's safer to hold on to fat. Definitely it can show up as irritability, anxiety, depression, mental health issues that we're all aware of. And also brain fog, similar to fatigue in that your brain is just trying to process and suppress and repress and keep on top of so many things that it just starts dropping down some mental tabs, which leads to loss of memory, lack of concentration, brain fog. Then it can start impacting other body systems as well. So when your nervous system is in a state of stress, your female hormones can't produce properly. Progesterone often gets suppressed, and then that can show up as PMS, infertility, menopausal symptoms, and definitely the gut. So if you're in a fight-flight response, you can't rest or digest properly. So you start having gut issues, and then also sleep issues come along. Also, when you're stressed, your immune system gets really suppressed. So your immune system can't thrive and keep on top of pathogens coming into your body when you're in a state of fight or flight. So people often get more prone to picking up infections or sometimes even like allergies, autoimmune type diseases. And definitely chronic pain in the body because you're always tense. Like your body's always tense. It's not safe to be loose and relaxed. So in terms of like when we're digging into what's going on here and we're trying to heal the body from physical symptoms and also mental health issues, there's both what we call metaphysical imbalances or inflammation or stresses and also physical inflammation and stresses. So if you only address one but not the other, it's really hard to actually get resolution from your health issues. So from a physical point of view, in our practice, we are looking at 3 main body systems. So I talked a lot about the adrenals and brain already. We test those via urine and spit. I always just think it's so fascinating that we can look at neurotransmitters like adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin in our urine. It is so cool. And I don't understand why doctors and psychiatrists don't test for it because it's totally can show up so much stuff. Other body systems, I mentioned the sex hormones. So definitely if you're having female hormone issues or men on the call or listening to the recording, low libido, low testosterone, which can show up as fatigue and muscle weakness, then that's definitely a direct response from your body being in a stressed and fight-flight response. And then, as I mentioned before, gut can break down. So if your immune system is suppressed, you can have nasty pathogens overgrow. So parasites, worms, candida, digestive organs start breaking down because in the fight-flight response, you just can't produce your digestive juices very effectively. So often people are showing up with low stomach acid, low digestive enzymes. Leaky gut is another one too. I remember I did a stool test with a lady who ate perfectly. She had like the most perfect diet. I think she was eating really keto or something, but whole food. And we did a stool test, and one, she had candida, which was like very interesting because you don't eat any sugar. What? But also she had leaky gut, and I'm like, where the heck is this coming from? And she was in stage 3 adrenal fatigue, and her nervous system was highly wired. And so that alone can stress literally eats away at your gut lining and suppresses the immune system. So no matter how good you might eat, you could have nasty stuff overgrowing if that's happening. And then lastly, detox issues. So someone, when we were chatting about what is trauma, mentioned it can be passed down through generations, which it absolutely can. And there's a thing called epigenetics, where basically most humans are born with little mutations in our cells. I don't know if there's one person who isn't. I don't know that. Maybe there is. But most people are born with little mutations, and it's not a death sentence or a chronic illness sentence because your body has the ability to either express that mutation or not. When there's been a lot of past stresses, distressing events, trauma, it is one of the biggest things that actually switches on these mutations in our body so that it starts burning. These mutations often burn through certain nutrients really fast, or they're not processing nutrients very well. Has anyone heard of methylation or the MTHFR gene? That's a common genetic mutation. That's part of, from my book, yes, that's part of your detox pathways and also brain health. And so when you've had trauma stuck in the body, it can definitely impact your ability to clear toxins from the body, and it switches on these genetic mutations, which just cause so many different types of weird physical health issues and mental health issues. These are just like tests. Tests that look at the different body systems. So this one is an adrenal test, and that little line at the bottom is flatlining cortisol. So that is an example of someone who is in later stages of adrenal fatigue, where at some point they were producing so much cortisol because of chronic stresses, and now their body has just kind of like wiped out and really dropped down. We see that very often in our practice. In fact, it's probably less common that someone's adrenal test will come back normal. Occasionally it does. And if it does, it usually means that there's some other system out of whack. Female hormones, as I mentioned before, can go out of whack. Neurotransmitters. So these are very technical terms, but basically the first three neurotransmitters are markers for adrenaline, dopamine, and serotonin, which are really important neurotransmitters to help you feel calm and safe and to have energy and to sleep well. And as I mentioned before, a lot of chronic trauma and past distressing events and present stress absolutely burns those out. Bees are really important. Has anyone heard of the holistic psychologist? What's her name? Dr. Nicola Pera. She's got lots of books. She's got like millions of followers. She puts up some really cool stuff in Instagram, but she said a little post the other day. She's like, check your vitamin Bs, because this is a common nutrient that gets burnt out when there's been chronic stress or unresolved trauma, and also is very much linked to not being able to cope with stress and showing up as anxiety, sleep issues. Bees are basically important for every cell in the body. Every cell in the body has vitamin Bs, so it can definitely start breaking down things pretty quickly. Questions or insights? What have you, any light bulb moments, anything that you've learned that you didn't know, anything you're not clear about? Yeah, Jenna, it's also why as a vegan I need to watch I get enough vitamin Bs. Yeah, especially B12 is really important for methylation, which is that genetic mutation I was talking about. So if you're healthy and well, you're getting enough. If you're showing up with symptoms, you probably need to supplement if you're a vegan or tracking religiously.
You are more than just the sum of your parts. So our process includes looking into your mind, your body, and also your environment. It's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to heal, at least long term, if you aren't taking care of your environment, if you're in an unhealthy environment. I think about it. I love cartoons. I think Homer Simpson working in the radioactive plant, and surprise, he's bald, overweight, kind of silly. So is it a silly idea to think, heal your environment, you'll heal your body? We've got three ways that we do this. Our ending body burnout method has 3 steps. First, we like to get answers. We like to connect the dots as to your body systems. So you've got a bunch of symptoms. What body systems are involved with those symptoms? And our answers process is about connecting those dots and getting a clear diagnosis as to, or how much are your body systems functioning? How little are your body systems functioning? Let's do some lab tests to get a real idea physically of what's going on in your body. Sometimes we'll start the second step, spark, while you're in the middle of your lab test journey. Other times it'll be after you've done it. Sometimes you wouldn't have even done your lab tests. But the second big step is all about finding your spark. It's the metaphysical testing. If in answers we do the physical lab testing in Spark, we look at, all right, well, what's the root cause here? Where did this all come from? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? How do you find meaning in your life? Yes, you've had significant emotional events in the past. Well, what now? If those are the cards you've been dealt, how can you, with power and with love and care, move forward in your life and play the hand? Shine is after you've equipped yourself as a self-healer and you've worked through your stories. It's how do you bring Spark, the metaphysical and the physical in answers together. Shine is all about shining. Shine is all about treating the specific physical things that are going on in your body and the specific metaphysical things. It's an individualized approach to healing. And that's how we bring healing together holistically. Anything to add, hun?
No, it's good.
Cool. Just a real quick blowout of this. Answers: confirm your body system imbalances, address your physical cause. Spark is reprogram beliefs and rewire your brain and the other metaphysical causes. And then in Shine, heal your body systems and your lifestyle. We have a lot of our clients on our call today. So welcome to you guys. Some of you are starting your journey through the Ending Body Burnout Method. Some of you are in the middle of the Ending Body Burnout Method. I'd love to hear from you of where you're at. So in the chat, just let us know how you're going, where you're at with your journey, what insights, what wins. Tell everybody who isn't in yet what's been happening for you, and be honest. Like just say, I've got this, but I'm still looking for XYZ. Like love to hear from you.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Like pop it in the chat. Tell us where you're at with your journey, either just started or in the middle, working through some things. Tell us if you've had any crazy awarenesses or insights or even hiccups along the road. Like let us know. I love it.
I don't think we've ever had anyone where it's like, you know how you think about healing where it's a little dot at the bottom and where you want to be is at the top, and it's just like this nice straight line, bang. It's usually curly and swirly.
Yeah, and there's like,
but as long as you're moving in the right direction, that is good.
There's usually when you start your healing journey, doing it this way, following the method, you'll get to a new level and you have new level problems, and as if you could have predicted it. Maybe you could have, maybe you couldn't, but it's super interesting to see the spiral. You know, instead of it being a downward vicious cycle, it's a virtuous cycle of improvement and continuation.
Sarah and Alyssa just about to start. Woohoo! Starting, ready to jump in. Emma have booked my initial consult, but the book has already been so helpful. Yeah, awesome. It's refreshing to hear the honesty regarding the work that needs to be out in and how long healing can take. Yeah, that's cool. If you haven't got my book, actually, I'm going to put it in the chat box because that might be a helpful resource too.
While we're waiting for some chitty chats.
I'm also going to add in, everyone might have done it already because I created a new scorecard quiz to go along with this 3-day event. So there's one called the Unmasking the Connection of Body Burnout or Chronic Health Issues and Trauma. So if you haven't done that one yet, I would highly recommend doing that one. Also in regards to what we were chatting about today, and we're kind of, we did a little bit of this is what trauma is and this is how it affects the body. From a body systems point of view, we also have a scorecard that looks at your unique set of symptoms and identifies, it's not as good as a lab test, obviously. We're not peering into your body, but it's a really good indication in terms of where are your main health imbalances happening at a body systems level. And I'm pretty sure most people have done our main one, the ending body burnout scorecard.
Because I like fancy things, I created this. So if you're on your computer and you've got your phone in front of you, you can scan that and do our ending body burnout assessment.
I'll just read out Kerry's response. I'm in the middle of it, as in the program. It was tough to start with. Yes, there were a few little I'm going to run aways, but so many improvements. And I'm loving this journey. Chris and Philly are amazing and so helpful. I nearly bailed. I didn't think I could cope with all the layers of trauma, but Philly was so helpful. It takes time to heal 69 odd years of stuff. Yeah. Oh, and like, how good are the 70s going to be? Or the last year of 69 when it's just like, I'm free. But it is quite normal when you start actually, I mean, and this is why actually a lot of people are just like, no, I just want to do lab tests and supplements, because it's kind of like it feels safer. When you start digging into deeper root causes, all of a sudden the unconscious state is like, we can't do this. No. We've been holding on to this stuff and these patterns for a really long time to try and keep us safe. When actually it's not keeping you safe, it's actually burning you out even more. But the unconscious state, there is often, I don't think we haven't yet had a client where they've had a little bit of a moment. Am I really doing this? Marg in the middle, I've had incredible insights into my physical and metaphysical issues. Chris and Philly are wonderful. I found Philly to be so real, authentic and caring. She's lived it. Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And this is the process too. You just own these compliments. It's like, yeah, that's so true. But lived it. I feel like sometimes I've had people say to me, oh, what are your qualifications? Are you like a GP? Are you a doctor? Are you a psychologist? I actually have studied psychology at university. I'm like, no, I've got some qualifications that are pretty cool, but I also have lived experience, and I think that that's way more powerful, because someone could textbook learn this stuff, but how can you really take someone through layers of a healing journey when they haven't actually experienced themselves? And often too, a lot of, whether it's doctors or psychologists, might actually not even believe that you can, because they haven't experienced it for themselves. They're still kind of stuck in their own dysfunction. Not everyone, that is quite general, but just a trend that I see. Michelle, 4th week is spark and already noticing shifts in my thinking, even though I have a long way to go. So good. I've been on my subs and diet protocol for 9 days, and the first 2 days were horrible, but I'm feeling I'm now sleeping a lot better already, which is awesome. You didn't tell me that.
All right. So what we would like to do now is just go over the bonuses that we have for you. Let's move that out of the way.
Woo-hoo.
Today, if you guys are not in ending body burnout.
Also too, if you've just recently joined, like within the last month or so, you will just automatically receive these, so you haven't missed out.
Do you want to just keep chatting?
Yeah,
real quick?
so we've got 4 bonuses if you wanted to join the program. Our doors are only open until the 23rd of Jan, so that's 1 week away. They close at 9 p.m. on 23rd, and we won't actually open doors again until end of May. So we only take clients into the program 3 times a year. If you join today, you can actually get access to $500 worth of awesome bonuses to help you in your journey. And we've never done this before. So the thing is, though, each one of these bonuses are going to disappear every day. So today, if you join up, you can get a $100 voucher that you can spend on supplements or lab testing, depending on where you are in your journey. Also, a 60-minute one-on-one breakthrough session with Chris. And we've also putting on 2 extra group sessions. One is, I didn't really know what to call this one, a lab geek out group session, because some people, we have an hour to go over lab tests and start treatment plan when people get lab test results back. But even that often isn't enough for people to ask all their questions, or they take away their lab tests and they're like, what does all this mean again? How is this important? So I thought that would be a really fun kind of like just geek out if you're not into science, just skip that one. And also we wanted to put on a quick win group session as well, because sometimes when you start this journey, it can feel overwhelming, where it's like, oh, I just feel like there's so much to do and I don't know where to start. And when you start actually experiencing those small shifts, those quick wins, it can help build that momentum. So they will actually, so if you join up today before 9 p.m, you get access to all of those, and then each one will disappear every day. So this one's gone. That one will still be available tomorrow. That one disappears Thursday. That one's left. Friday, that one's left. Just for a little bit of fun.
Pew, pew, pew.
And I'll pop in the chat box too, a link to our ending body burnout method.
Or if you're fancy, you can scan that little gizmo on the screen. All those bonuses are outlined on the page, that if you can scan that, but Philly's just popped that into the chat.
Also, I've noticed some people on the call, and also if you're listening back to the recording, if you've already booked in a Connect the Dots initial consult or a lab review consult, which happens at the start of the process, and you've paid for it, but you're like, oh, I'd so be keen to join this program, I don't want to wait until May, we'll just credit whatever you've paid for that initial consult, and your first one-on-one would be included in the program. Just thought I'd add that.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? If you do have any, type them in the chat box. We can also stop record if you wanted to come off mute and ask them. But tomorrow, same time, we're going to go into the missing piece of healthcare, and we're going to look more at beliefs and identity, which is to do with the unconscious mind, often wrapped up in trauma. And then on Friday, same time, we're going to take you through one of our favorite safety rewire practices that actually start shifting things in the body so that your body can actually start healing. And they'll be a lot more practical. Tomorrow is going to be a lot more coachy. And on Friday, it's going to be a lot more kind of just immersive rather than me talking about sciencey stuff the whole time.
I think our computer just went a little laggy just now. But click that link if you haven't already. Head to our method page. And that's about it from us.
Yeah.
All right, guys, if you like, we have about 5 minutes. If you'd like to stick around and ask some questions, I'm just going to press pause on the recording. But please stick around.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.